UFO lands. All these people are looking at it. This Bigfoot comes running out of the forest from right where the UFO was. You ask the ETs, what are these implants? Because they were implanting them. They're like, what's this? Oh, this is to monitor your health. This is to boost your immune system. This is to measure the level of pollution in your body. This is to stabilize your organ system. So that's what I think implants are for, honestly.
Huh.
I knew a lady, she had her implant removed. ETs came like the next week and re-implanted her.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the UAP Sessions. I'm your host, Scott Murtha, and today I am joined by a special guest, Preston Dennett. He's been on numerous TV shows. He's authored over 30 books, written several articles. He's a MUFON investigator. He's done so much work for this subject. So I really appreciate you, Preston, taking time to talk to me today.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's funny when I hear my bio, I always kind of dissociate just a little bit. Cause like, wow, I never in a million years expected I'd be doing this. It sounds strange to hear it, but yeah, I've been at this for like 40 years now.
Yeah, your resume is extremely impressive. And that's why you're the perfect guest for this, man. There's not many people who have more knowledge about this topic than you. So I really appreciate you taking the time. So I want to dig a little bit into your work. So I know you have done a lot of work related to UFOs, and you've done a lot of things related to other paranormal topics too. But really honing in on the UFO thing, you've talked about UFO healings, you've talked about a lot of close encounter cases, and you've also had stories relating UFOs and Bigfoot together, which I find extremely fascinating. So why don't we start with that? I know you've done your research on this and you've come across a lot of different stories. Can you tell me some of that Bigfoot UFO connection stories?
Yeah, as soon as I got involved with UFO research, I realized there was a weird paranormal connection because a lot of people were describing, ghosts and hauntings and out-of-body experiences and NDEs and precognition and just the whole list. And I was a little bit nervous about Bigfoot, honestly, because while I hadn't researched it at all, I kind of suspected it was along the lines of UFOs, the information not being in the mainstream. I suspected it was real, but really thought that would be opening up a can of worms. So I avoided it. I seriously I'm like, I'm not looking into that right now. UFOs is a lot to deal with already. But if you're a good researcher, when you get a case, you follow the evidence where it leads you. So I'm not going to censor anything out or ignore evidence. And sure enough, it came right at me when I interviewed this guy, a radiologist from Canyon Country. Robert Murphy was his name. Let me use his name, a great witness, and had this crazy experience where, Canyon Country is outside of LA in Southern California, but it borders the LA National Forest. Now, a lot of people don't realize how big that place is. I forget, like 50 million acres or something. It's a lot of wild land. Huge forest. And I didn't know it, but yeah, it's got a big history of Bigfoot.
Wow.
So I'm talking to him and he's like, yeah, this UFO kind of landed in my backyard. He says, didn't actually land, it was hovering there. He lives, there's nothing out there behind his house. It's certainly at that time, this was like 1978. And he said it looked just like blue and white lights mostly, lots of lights that obviously shouldn't be there, and it was totally silent. He ran to get his eyeglasses because he's a little nearsighted, and he ran back and it was taken off and a little dot in the sky and it's gone. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool story because he saw it close enough where there's probably no misperception going on here. He's like, wait, I'm not done yet. He says the very next night, Bigfoot showed up in his backyard. Now, he didn't see it, but he heard it roaring. And he said it was a multi-tonal roar, echoing in his chest. It was so loud, high pitches and low pitches. And his dogs were going absolutely crazy. He had 4 dogs. And here's the weird part. He said, I could read its mind and it could read mine. Now, I didn't know that this was a thing, apparently, in a lot of Bigfoot reports. But it is, because I've certainly run across it. I ended up becoming a Bigfoot researcher to an extent, at least. I wrote a book
Right.
about it. And he said he felt like it was really mad at the dogs. And he was just curious about the Bigfoot. And that was really the extent of the, communication. And, it roared several times and then went bounding off. But that's weird. I mean, one night and then the next night a
Next
Bigfoot.
night, a Bigfoot.
And weirdly, he says, it didn't end there. He went out, looked for footprints. He found something in the soil, but not enough to really convince a skeptic, say.
Right.
But he says, it's the weirdest thing. We had a poltergeist outbreak in our home after this. I'm like, you're kidding, because
That's insane.
that would turn up sometimes in these cases I'm researching. So I'm like, okay. And then I had another lady who was a contactee who was having major Bigfoot encounters. I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. So I started digging into it. I got a book contract to write about Bigfoot. And I thought, you know what, let's just see what I can find about this Bigfoot UFO connection. And I can tell you for sure, if you're seeing a Bigfoot, chances are there's no UFOs around. And if you're having a UFO encounter, you're probably not going to have a Bigfoot running up to you or anything like that. I mean, by and large, they seem to be absolutely wholly separate. But
Right.
there's this smattering of cases, and not just a few, a couple of hundred at least, probably a little more than that, where it intersects perfectly. And here's I looked into a bunch of these. There's a whole bunch in Pennsylvania, a UFO lands. All these people are looking at it. This Bigfoot comes running out of the forest from right where the UFO was. There was a historical case in California where the Native Americans said that they saw one of these Bigfoot coming out of a UFO, literally saw it. It came down. They described it all in vivid detail. There was another case in Colorado. There's this ranch that has a whole lot of activity of all kinds, Bigfoot and UFOs and so forth, kind of like Skinwalker, in Colorado.
Right.
And this guy's walking by his ranch out in the wilderness and comes upon a UFO hovering a few feet off the ground, and there's little grays around it, and there's a darn Bigfoot standing next to them. And he said it was almost like it was their pet or something. So, I mean, there's a lot of these. There's a couple of cases with people seeing Bigfoot inside a UFO. That's pretty rare. One or two going into one. So, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this is absolutely insane.
And I love those connection stories.
Definitely nothing I would bring up to a skeptic, because you
Right.
look like a nut. But like, what's going on here? I mean, I found another one in the LA National Forest, same type of deal. Person saw a UFO and a Bigfoot runs right in front of it. So there's a connection. I mean, there's clearly a connection. You can't ignore these cases. And people are saying, oh, maybe Bigfoot is an alien. And I looked into that possibility. I don't know, because the Bigfoot reports go so far back. I mean, literally to ancient history, and it's all over the world. I mean, you can call it what you want, whether it's a Yeti in Nepal, right? Or the Almas in China. And I mean, they've all got their little names. Australia, they don't really have the big ones. They've got little hairy men. Wendy or something like that. Skunk ape, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, what have you. So I don't know that they're ET necessarily. Some people say they're intelligent. I think they probably are, at least some of them. I mean, full on sentient, because people have heard them speaking a language and super psychically advanced or paranormal in some way. Because there are cases where they disappear. And again, talk with telepathy. So here's my theory.
Yeah, I'd love to hear this.
I almost get embarrassed putting this forth, but it makes sense to me, at least. I think some of these Bigfoot are what we would call a contactee, just like a person would be. Because we got ET coming down and they're taking samples of rocks and soil. They're picking leaves, flowers, all kinds of plant samples. And they love farms. They're taking people's pigs, cows, chickens, rabbits. And I've got, I did a big study of that too. they were pulling alligators out of this pond. I mean, pretty much every form of life. And I've, found cases where people have gone on board and seen what you would call a zoo, or perhaps an animal enclosure might be a better way of putting it.
Hmm.
But and certainly they're collecting genetic samples from humans. We know this. So why
Right.
not Bigfoot? Bigfoot is real, 100%. If you don't think it's real, you haven't done your homework. The evidence is mountainous.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's kind of my assessment.
that's interesting. So what do you feel about the thought of, or like the theory of Bigfoot being like, I know you mentioned ET, you think he's ET or not ET, but what do you think about the thought of Bigfoot being something that's interdimensional and it's kind of traveling in between dimensions? And when we see it, it's because he's traveled here. And then when we don't see it, it's because they are back, in their own realm.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is an idea that's bandied about quite a bit in the UFO field with ETs as well. Like, are they interdimensional? And is Bigfoot? I'm going to say yes, because I interviewed a guy. Swear to God, he wouldn't let me record him, so I can't really write about it. But I'll never forget what he told me. He was in the foothills of the Sierras in California,
Hmm.
hiking along a river, and this Bigfoot, boom, appears right in front of him, scared the living daylights out of him. And it said, "Don't be scared. We're friendly. You're fine. I'm not going to hurt you." And then a female Bigfoot appeared out of thin air, and then a little child Bigfoot. And it's like, yeah, we have families. We're not that different from you. We have this ability to turn invisible. And boom, they disappeared. It was a relatively short encounter, but he's like, I swear to you, this happened. So yeah, I'm thinking probably they do have that ability. They're physical. They're 100% physical. They stink to high heaven.
Hmm.
They're leaving footprints. We've got hair samples, blood samples, scat samples, and so forth. There's been some really interesting genetic testing on some of these samples. So I think that they're wholly physical, but we are too. We're physical. We know this because
Right.
we fall down, it hurts. But there are cases of people doing this sort of thing. So I looked into that too. Enlightened yogis and masters and people who are really highly spiritually evolved,
Hmm.
doing things like levitation or teleportation or invisibility. That's a thing. So we're interdimensional too. And I think the ETs are interdimensional as well, because they do this kind of stuff off the charts. So yeah,
Right.
you can, it doesn't preclude them being physical or extraterrestrial. Because I'm thinking all entities are, because I was looking at weird animal stories, and there's accounts of animals doing this kind of stuff. Cats, in particular, walking through walls, disappearing.
Hmm.
There was a case apparently of this guy who saw I think it was a moose or an elk, which looked like it was levitating across the stream. It went running on the top of the water. So it
So
was a
bizarre.
deep river, and it's just running on top.
That's
So
insane.
yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder then, like, with these cases, because we were talking about Bigfoot having that telepathic communication ability, and we see that, there's so many cases too of, gray aliens and other species of aliens communicating telepathically. Um, it's just interesting that everything that we encounter that seems to be from not here has this ability to telepathically communicate. And maybe that's their main mode of communication. Is That's what it seems.
Yeah, I think it's actually ours too. We're just so dense. Or people have fluoride in the water, and we're poisoned with all kinds of prescription and
Right.
illegal drugs, frankly. I mean, the pesticides in our food, and the Wi-Fi and the airwaves, and I mean all kinds of stuff, which I think is largely intentional to sort of dumb that down with us, because there is a cover up, and it's not just about the fact that ETs exist, but what they can do and what we can do.
Hmm.
So, but it does seem to be the universal language. There's been studies on animals. Dogs, like, will know before their owners come home. bees even have done some crazy stuff that seems to point towards them reading the minds of their owners. And if you
Interesting.
look into this, it's unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. Telepathy has been proven in a laboratory setting among people.
Right.
Pretty much everybody, if you talk to them, can say, "Well, yeah, I knew who was going to answer, on the phone before I picked it up," or at least one or two incidents that are of mind reading or this kind of thing.
Huh.
So I think we can do this. It's just a matter of doubling down and developing our own psychic abilities. And when someone has ET contact, they're talking to you telepathically. You're talking back. I've got cases. This is so interesting, Scott. When 2, 3, 4 people are on board, they're talking to each other telepathically on board the
Huh.
craft and can hear the ETs. I've had cases of people, they see a UFO and they hear the ETs talking. Like, you don't have to be afraid. Oh, he sees us, or something along those.
That's
So
so
we have that
fascinating.
ability. And when you have contact, it wakes it up in you.
Interesting. That's what I was just about to ask you, because you were saying that when there's been cases where there are multiple contactees on a craft and they've been able to communicate to each other telepathically. So, what is it about being around them that just kind of brings that ability out? It's so strange.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I think we have a tendency to sort of resonate, for lack of a better word, with the people we're with. Um, or perhaps they're intentionally doing this, and it's like a muscle that they start flexing, and you're like, okay, well, this does work. I don't know. It's strange. I don't fully understand it, but it's not limited to telepathy, because ETs can levitate. People describe that all the time. I don't think it's necessarily technology that's doing it,
Hmm.
but they're pulling people on board. I looked into levitation. This is a natural human ability too. I wrote a whole book on it. But here's the weird thing. People will come back from an encounter and they will spontaneously levitate afterwards, over the next few days, weeks, or I did a video on this. This guy calls me up from, gosh, where was it? It was Europe somewhere. He is crying. He's like, "Oh my God, this happened to me. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I had an encounter and I started floating around my room for weeks. And only when I was alone, it never worked when I was around people. I couldn't control it." There's another person who
Hmm.
contacted me, who he and his sister were taken. They were put back in their basement, and they said that night they could jump up and would float in the air. This isn't the ETs doing it. This is them. Because yeah, ETs will pull you up, levitate you into the craft.
Right.
But another lady I talked to, Dolly Safran, I wrote a whole book on her case, because she's like the most extensive case I've ever investigated. Finally, one day, I'm doing all these interviews with her. I'm like, "Don't suppose you've ever experienced levitation?" She kind of looks at me and smiles like, "Well, yeah, as a matter of fact." I had a bunch of
Wow.
incidents as a kid, mostly, a few as an adult, but that was witnessed by her family. She absolutely has corroborating witnesses to this. So, yeah,
Huh.
there is, it's something about hanging out with them. I don't know exactly how that happens, but
It's really interesting. And that kind of brings me because we were talking about how, being around them kind of can have lasting, like, a lot of people walk away with some type of ability or temporary gift after encountering them. Um, and you have a lot of stories that you've collected about healings and people having encounters and being healed from some type of ailment that they suffered prior to their encounter. And it's interesting to me because there's such a mixed bag of stories, right? There are people who have UFO encounters and like have abduction experiences that leave them traumatized, and it's just been, it was a very negative feeling and very negative experience for them. But then you have these other cases where it seems that they've had these encounters and they leave that encounter with some type of ailment that had been bothering them for who knows how long, and then they're just cured of it. Like, what do you think? What do you think? I would love to hear some of your healing stories, and I would also like to get your opinion on why such the drastic difference in these encounters. Why are some of them so, I guess, peaceful and benign, and others seem so like negative.
Yeah. Well, I have to be careful here because this is a controversial aspect.
Mm,
And people have like, no, you're gaslighting me if you think that this was something good for me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's your encounter. It's your um, freedom and your prerogative to feel about it how you feel about it. And if it was negative for you, I mean, I fully understand because it's very difficult for most people. I'm going to say almost all contactees at some point have some fear associated with this.
right.
And especially in the beginning, there's quite a bit of trauma, PTSD, anxiety, fear of intruders, insomnia. These are questions I ask people. I'm like, do you have these things? I'm like, yeah, I do. Um, but I mean, like, here's a healing case. A lady was in her home. She was going to have her gallbladder removed because of gallstones, and they really can't just pull them out generally. Not at that time. They removed the whole gallbladder. Well, she wakes up the next morning and she's got this surgical scar. She's in the medical field and she reaches down and there was no pain. She opened it up, freaked her out. It closed up. It healed within an hour. Gone. She has had some prior encounters. She was furious, but she went to the doctor and like, well, your gallstones are, I mean, we don't understand this. We don't have to remove your gallbladder. Your gallstones are gone. This is amazing.
So
Well, she
bizarre.
was not a happy camper. Not at all. There was another guy from East Texas who kind of the same thing. He had kidney stones and hated his encounters, just hated it. He felt like they were experimenting on him. It was very scary for him. That's usually what it is. I found it's the fear that causes people to be like, this was terrible. And the loss of control. They feel like they're not in control. So I fully understand how that would be a negative experience for somebody. But they healed him of kidney stones. They asked him, like, what are these in your body? He said, those are kidney stones. They're not good. And they said, well, we'll remove them next time we meet you. And they did. And they used an instrument which he drew. The investigator was Constance Clear. This is my personal case. But she took that drawing to a doctor and he's like, oh yeah, that's lithosphere or lithography or something. It's a device they use to remove kidney stones. He recognized it, the doctor, immediately.
Huh.
This guy didn't like it. Like another lady in Canada, or I'm sorry, Puerto Rico, had full-on cancer and was pulled on board by the Greys and cured of cancer. And while she was glad not to have it, breast cancer, she was still mad at them. So this is, I mean, I kind of get it, but I have to tell you, I've interviewed a lot of people who were like, oh my God, I love these guys. One guy, his child had a brain tumor. They came down and took it, and he says, I will forever be thankful to these guys. They are angels to me. They were Greys. But
Huh.
I'd say most people are pretty thankful for it. One lady I interviewed, she had glaucoma, a thinning of the optic nerve, and had an encounter and went to the ophthalmologist, and he was astounded because her optic nerve had thickened up to twice what it was. Her vision was much better. So
Whoa.
she was happy. It wasn't negative for her at all.
Right.
Most people are pretty happy about it, but I mean, it's weird. It's very odd. I mean, there's another case investigated by Leonard Stringfield, who's really known for crash retrievals.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this guy. I wrote to him. He was very nice to me. But he has this case, Chuck Doyle from Florence, Kentucky. I'll never forget it because it was so weird. He's in his backyard when this kind of manta ray shaped UFO, kind of like spade shaped, different, right? Not your average disc, is hovering over the neighbor's yard and it's sending down this beam of light. And he realizes that this beam of light is coming for him. So he turns to run and it hits him and freezes him in place. He's at a 45-degree angle now, hanging over the ground, trying to run away, and stuck in this beam of light. And he's got this real bad head cold, right? All these weird images come to his mind, mathematics, equations, weird geometric symbols, colors, landscapes that he couldn't recognize that were clearly not on this planet. Just all this stuff. And just a few seconds, and this beam retracts. He falls to the ground because he's not prepared now. Scrapes his face up a little bit, jumps up, sees the UFO. It's still there, goes running inside. It's like, Mom, there's a UFO out there. It struck me with a beam of light, blah, blah, blah. And pulls her outside just in time to see this thing pretty much darting away. So she just saw a little light zooming off. She calls the doctor because he's perfectly fine now. There is no cold. It was a pretty severe head cold. So this ET came from, I don't know, Orion, wherever, light years, I don't know, to cure this little boy's head cold. It's crazy.
It's so strange. It's so strange.
I mean, maybe it was a side effect, but no, come on. He was targeted. I mean, he was struck by the beam of light. So case after case of this. Cures of colds, back pain, stomach aches, tumors and cysts, diphtheria, diabetes. I've got like some dental cures.
Wow.
20 or 30 eye cures. Pretty much any part of the body, heart, lungs.
So does it all seem to be like the Greys doing this, or is there different species that you've had logged that have done this?
All of them. Like, originally I thought, these are probably going to be mostly human looking, because they're considered the good guys, and that's a misconception. I don't think the ETs are here to hurt, harm, or take over. There's a very prominent pattern of healing when people are taken on board. I mean, there's been studies that shows up to 50% of people, could be quite a bit more, because I'm not sure that they don't ask for your insurance card. They're not necessarily,
right.
And they'll cure people who they don't even realize themselves are sick. But yeah, half were Greys.
Interesting.
Human looking, a couple of mantis cases. Mantids are pretty rare, certainly in my own files, but really all tall whites, little blue beings, just strange humanoids of all kinds. Like this one lady, she was just a housewife from Nebraska is how she described herself. Her husband's a mechanic. She's had a lifetime of contact, but she was vacuuming the floor one day and sneezes, and out comes this little implant looking thing out of her nose. And she picked it up and put it in her hand. She's like, what's that? Tosses it. Bing. And realizes like, oh, what have I done? Spent an hour on her hands and knees, couldn't find the darn thing. Finally gave up. She started to get real sick. So this kind of was one of the clues I got as to what the purpose for implants is, which we can get into if you want. But at any rate, she started passing out every day and having this weird blood sugar disorder. Went to the doctor. They could not diagnose it. Said it wasn't diabetes. We don't know what's going on. Take these vitamins. Keep coming back. We'll try to figure this out. No history of diabetes in her family, but was literally like passing out from low blood sugar 2-3 times a day. Always carrying around a glass of orange juice and a peanut butter sandwich to help. And woke up one evening going to get some juice and was not in her living room anymore. Was in a different place with a domed ceiling. A lot of people were there on, beds in kind of like cubicle areas. And she's trying to orient herself. There's this guy on another table next to her. And she's like, where are we? And he's like, I don't know. I'm feeling really weird. I'm kind of out of it. And she said, what's your name? He says, my name is Cooper. That's his real name. Red. I always hope to hear from this guy. That's why I kind of mentioned it. He had a plaid shirt, red plaid shirt. She won't let me use her real name. So I call her Jill. And she's trying to orient herself and looks down the corridor and here's this. She said it was 9 feet tall, this guy. I'm like, really? She's like, I'm telling you, this guy was 9 feet tall, looked human, but he wasn't human because his chin was like Lurch from the Addams Family or something, a giant forehead, a giant chin, broad face, huge mouth, giant nose, orange spiky hair. She says, but it really wasn't hair. It was super thick. It looked like straw. Big wraparound eyes, but essentially human looking, kind of.
Right.
and says, "Okay, Jill, it's your turn." She goes into hysterics as he wraps her up in this kind of sheet and puts these silver bell-like instruments on her body, which pulse energy into her, like her pancreas, and she said on various organs on her body, and wasn't painful, but she sure felt it, and is screaming. And she's not religious really, but says the Lord's Prayer, and wakes up, and she's back at home. Cannot wake up her family for a half an hour, shaking them. Her children and her husband won't wake up. And finally, they do. They're very groggy and fully supportive of her. God bless them, because not all spouses or family are.
Yeah.
And long story short, she was very sore, and she was healed. She stopped fainting. She stopped getting dizzy. She had lost a bunch of weight. She was about to be hospitalized because she was getting dangerously thin. Yeah.
Wow.
They healed her.
Huh.
I think it's because she lost her implant. Because talk to people who asked the ETs, "What are these implants?" Because they were implanting them. They're like, "What's this?" "Oh, this is to monitor your health. This is to boost your immune system. This is to measure the level of pollution in your body. This is to stabilize your organ system." Something along those lines. So that's what I think implants are for, honestly.
Huh.
Not tracking necessarily, because people have asked that too. "Oh no, we can find you wherever we want." I knew a lady, she had her implant removed. ETs came like the next week and reimplanted her. Another guy,
wow.
it popped out of his body, and the ETs came on. He was having fully conscious encounters. And they said, "This is ridiculous. We're going to put this next implant in a place you'll never find it." So I guess they did. I don't know.
That's interesting. So why do you think they're so invested in trying to heal particular people of their ailments? Like it's strange because I mean a lot of people have like cancer and other illnesses that take their life, but then there's certain people that they just kind of track down and seem to continually try to heal them, like that person you were just speaking of who lost their implant. What do you think that is?
Yeah, well, it's hard to figure out because there are contactees who are healed and they have serious diseases, and they don't heal that. One lady asked about that, and they said, "That's karmic. You chose that. You chose that to learn a certain lesson."
Huh.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, because that actually comes up a couple of times. But what we do know is that ETs do track certain family lines. They seem to be interested in the genetics of certain families.
Right.
Because if you're being taken on board, and it's happened more than once, almost certainly it's going to happen to your child, or it's happened to your parents, or maybe an aunt or uncle or something like that. But because there's usually one person in the family who's kind of the one they really are working with. So that's definitely a pattern. I looked into this. It's weird.
Huh.
I did find another pattern though, because it's evenly divided between men and women. It's not your ancestry, or it's your blood or your blood type, or that's people, their political affiliation, or their religion, or stupid questions which you wouldn't think would mean anything. But I'm looking, right?
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah.
So finally, this lady in Norway contacts me. She's like, she heard about my healing investigations and said, "They healed me of my back pain." I'm like, "Wow, what happened?" She's like, "These little grays came," and she described this device, kind of like a lint remover. You've seen one of those with the little...
Yeah.
I've heard this from other people. It's so interesting. That's what they use to heal people's backs, apparently.
Huh.
They flipped her around. She says it was like I was a rag doll, and they put me on my stomach and pressed that up against my back, and I felt it pulsing into me, and I was screaming, "Who are you? What are you doing?" They didn't say anything, she said. I think they may have, but she was terrified.
Right.
This was no fun for her, which I can totally get. These guys look different. So they walk through the wall. This is at night. She looks at the window, and there's this bright blue light. So she leaps up and runs to the window, and the blue light flashes out. And that's when she's like, "Oh, my back." She had real bad chronic back problems from an injury. So I went through all the questions, like, "Oh, so have you had experiences as a child?" Because that's almost always the case. It's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, have you had close-up UFO sightings?" "Never." I'm like, okay, maybe something else is going on here because she wasn't fitting the profile for a contactee. She didn't have any friends who were contactees because that sometimes happens.
Right.
So no missing time. I mean, this was kind of stumping me. And finally I asked her, like, what do you do for a living? She's like, well, I'm an artist. I'm like, okay. She's like, but actually I'm retired and I'm actually pretty famous. So please don't use my name. I'm really well known in my area because I do human and animal rights activism. That struck a chord because I'm like, oh my God, this guy I just interviewed who was healed of a blood clot, Reverend Michael Carter, great guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's in this field, an amazing witness. Was healed of a blood clot, and he's a black guy. He fights against racism. Got awarded by President Clinton for his work.
Oh, wow.
And he's actually a healer too. I thought, well, gosh, there's that other guy, John Hunter Gray, Native American, who also won awards for his social work with Native Americans. And I started, all these bells started going off. I'm like, oh my God, I've interviewed, that person was a nurse. This was a doctor. This one was an environmentalist. This one's an inventor, a police officer, a musician, a writer, a teacher. These are people who are doing good work.
Right.
In some way. I mean, there was one guy I interviewed. He was healed of a bad heart condition. The doctors thought he should be dead. And he was healed also of pneumonia, real bad pneumonia. They gave him something to drink and it cured it right up. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you do for a living? He's like, I'm a bus driver. I'm like, oh, okay. Had some really interesting bus driver stories. But
really?
I'm like, okay, that's cool. And we talked about that. He says, but that's my job. That pays the bills, but that's not really what I'm into. I run this website called Shabala. And it's all about providing spiritual advice to people and giving psychic readings and telling them how to learn about their past lives and elevating their psychic abilities. And I'm like, well, ding, 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 there it is. So I look for that now. And it's a little bit of a loose pattern because a lot of people have contact.
Sure.
But that's one of the reasons I think is they're helping those who help others. So your chances of being healed increase if it's in your family.
Right.
If you're a real good person, maybe. Not a guarantee. If you're friends with the contactee, because there was a lady who was dying of cancer and she didn't know it, but her friend she knew her friend was a contactee. Mm-hmm. Her friend asked his ETs to help her. And she was in Arizona. Let me see, I remember her name, Helena Charbonnet. And had this real strong, and she's like on her deathbed, right? She's like, I'm going to just go home and die. I don't want to die in the hospital. Her skin is orange. She had pancreatic cancer. They couldn't remove it. It spread to her entire body. It's in her bones. She is on her last legs. She can't walk without help. But has this super strong impulse to drive out of her home alone at night, and does, and is pulled on board this craft. There's these little guys, not grays, just little short humanoids, and they heal her of cancer. She said it was excruciatingly painful.
Oh, wow.
And I've talked to other people like, oh yeah, this was bad. The only reason I could understand it is because the human doctors are so much worse. But they healed her and they told her, don't take any of the medicine they're giving you. It's not good for you. All you should do is drink water. You're going to be sick for the next 3 days, but you will improve after this. And she basically, that's all she could really remember consciously. She wakes up the next morning and tells her son this. He's like, Mom, you're dreaming. She's like, no, I'm telling you, I got in the car. She's like, can you? What? And she's like, let's go. I want to see if there's any evidence. They found a big burned circle in the field.
Oh, wow.
Craft was hovering. Of course, she gets really sick at this point. They go to the doctor, the hospital, and they're like, oh, call the priest, last rites, she's dying. Gathers the whole family. They're trying to give her medicine. She's like, no, don't give me medicine. Just give me water. And, vomiting, and it's just awful. But she's not dying. And just, hung in there for the next 3 days and started to improve and totally improved. And eventually the cancer was gone. So colon
Wow.
cancer cured. A bunch of cases of this.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, if you're
Huh.
friends with contact, because there's another case I know of where this guy had real bad kidney stones, and they're rushing him to the doctor. There's 4 people in the car, and he's groaning in the back seat like because kidney stones. I guess I
Yeah.
had one that's really painful. But his friend, God, what was his name? Hector Delgado, I think, is a full-on contactee. Didn't call up, as far as I know, didn't say heal my friend or anything. But his UFO shows up and starts circling around the car. And they're like, "Oh my God, look, he's in too much pain." He's like, "Forget it, I'm dying here." Kept circling around the car, and his friend, the contactee, is like, "I think this is good news. I think that they're aware of what's going on here." And he slowly started to not feel pain. And by the UFO darts off, and he's like, "God, my pain's gone." I'm like, "Well, we're going to the doctor," and they of course, the kidney stones were gone. So
Unbelievable.
I don't even know how they did that. How do you do
Right.
that?
Remotely removed his kidney stones. Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of cases where people are just in the presence of a UFO, and boom, they're healed. I mean, they'll come to your
That's so
bedroom
interesting.
sometimes. They'll take you on board. They'll strike you with a beam of light. That's pretty common. But
Right.
sometimes they're just there, and that's enough, I guess. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe they had missing time. It does. There was 4 people. I don't
Right.
think so. No one reported that.
That's interesting. Huh. And I know you were mentioning how like family lines, sometimes you see this kind of repeated over like different generations. And I know there also seems to be some type of connection sometimes where it seems like military folks and military like families and like lineage. Like, have you come across those type of stories as well?
Yeah, I have, and I'm reticent or hesitant to say that there's a connection there,
Hmm.
because if you ask people, and I started doing that, I'm like, "Do you have military in your family?" "Oh yeah." Almost everybody has somebody they know, or
Right.
perhaps depending. Not everyone has a military. Like my family, turns out we are one of these families being followed because my brother and my little sister had missing time. My brother had an implant. I've had some crazy experiences. My dad hated the subject so much with a passion that I wonder about that. He
Huh.
always denied, but I don't know. It freaked him out. Never got to ask my mom or my grandparents. But
Interesting.
yeah, maybe. Because like one of the first cases I investigated was a lady at work. Crazy. It turns out, I just become a researcher. And she's like, "My daughter's having these weird visitations." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "These little gray guys are coming in." It was so weirdly synchronous because
Hmm.
I knew her daughter, right? She'd come and pick her up and we'd talk. And having these visits by grays. And so I interviewed her sister, who was having encounters, the mother. The dad wouldn't talk to me. He's in military intelligence, will
Hmm.
not tell anybody what he does.
Interesting.
And yeah, there is something to that. And I'm thinking that ETs are putting people, contactees, essentially, in every level of society, and that's kind of their in to the military-industrial complex. Their open door
Right.
to get their message across, because these are the folks that probably are a problem for all humanity, the ones who are covering this up and kind of doing things that aren't for our best interests. Don't get me
Exactly.
wrong, I think there's great people within government, but these folks behind the cover up, I don't think are doing the right thing. uh, People talk about, "Oh, catastrophic disclosure, it's going to upset society." Excuse me, we're having catastrophic non-disclosure right now.
That's
What the
great. Yeah.
lies have absolutely caused untold damage to all humanity. Uh,
Yeah.
so so shut up about this catastrophic disclosure crap. That's gaslighting to the extreme. Don't lie to me. Tell me the
Exactly.
truth. This is not okay. So I don't
Hmm.
know if that's the connection there, but it's a good question, but I haven't been able to fully unpack that one.
Right. Hmm. So, what, since you just mentioned the government and disclosure stuff, now there's some wheels turning within the government and towards disclosure. Like this stuff has been over the last several years, sort of been ramping up. And there's been more attention paid to this subject by Congress. And now the president of the United States. And it seems like there's some momentum building here. And we are at the point now where there have been these files that are starting to be released by the president. I think we had 3, tranches at this point now. And they are releasing video, and they're releasing like documents that have previously been locked away and classified. And all this stuff is coming out. And do you think that we are actually building up towards kind of the slow final disclosure moment? Or are they just, do you think they're just releasing stuff to pacify us because there is momentum coming on the subject? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the latter side of the fence there. It's to placate us and kind of even a bit of a distraction to some degree. I mean, I am grateful that there's movement, because there hasn't been for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a complete brick wall, and it's ridiculous. But let's face it, we don't need that to know that this is real.
Right.
And it's now reached a point where there's so much evidence in the public arena that if they don't start saying, yes, there's something to this, they look like idiots. And they do look like idiots. And I have little sympathy for them, because they've dug their own grave for lying for 80 years. Right. So, yeah, the files, some are interesting, actually. The first batch was a nothing. I was very disappointed. I'm like, I told you, blurry stuff. That's a balloon. Those are birds. That's obviously, a military aircraft. And I think much of what they're releasing is probably our own, honestly. But that third release that had some good files in it, a couple, where they're actually, okay, now they're talking about a metallic disc hovering over a Navy ship or something, and
right,
how the military is going on alert about this. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit more than just a little baby step, because these others were nothing. It was insulting, because there's better footage in the public arena right now. I went to Kumburgaz Turkey footage, 2007, 8, and 9, real famous.
Mm-hmm.
The Dome on the Rock in Jerusalem, very good footage. The Mexico City footage of 1991, hard to find, but worth looking up. There was a solar eclipse, and there was a disc, and 30 people videotaped it. And it's undeniable. And that's better than what we've seen in these files. So I'm kind of like, I feel like they're leading us down the garden path a little bit. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step sideways, another step back, and then diagonal. And
right.
It started in 2016, about when the New York Times article came out. And
2017.
There was a hearing, and if you remember the 2 guys who were the head of the defense, Moultrie and Daley, I'll never forget their faces, because they're like, yes, we're here to testify and tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And they lied demonstrably. And when they were asked, have we ever shot at these things? Very quickly, they said no. Well, we know that's not true. The Battle of LA in the 1940s, right. 1,500 rounds. We've got the documentation and the first-hand witnesses. We've got the photographs of the shells exploding.
Right.
What are you talking about? Yes, we've shot at them. Read Frank Ficino Jr.'s book, Shoot Them Down. That was the policy in the 1950s. You are lying, and we know it. They were asked about Roswell. I'm like, Roswell, what? We don't know anything about Roswell. Well, aren't you the head of defense? What really clinched it for me was they were asked about the Malmstrom incident. Now, if you're in this field, you've probably heard of Malmstrom. 1967, Malmstrom Air Force Base, UFOs come and they shut down our ballistic nuclear missiles.
Yep.
A bunch of them, all of them. Didn't destroy them, didn't take them away, just rendered them inoperable for temporarily a day or so. And they're like, no, we got no good reporting on that. I'm like, well, I don't think you should be the head of defense. I wanted to throw something at the TV, because you guys are lying to me. And that was okay, given that was 10 years ago, right?
Sure.
It has ramped up. And now we are getting releases. But I feel like they're only doing this to maintain control of the narrative, to try to not look like complete idiots and fools, try to look like they're being truthful and transparent. But here's my answer. It's like, well, thank you for this breadcrumb, I appreciate the breadcrumb, but until and unless you show me the Roswell craft and the
Hmm.
bodies, which I know you have, because let's face it, there's 100 books, not kidding, it's closer to 200 on the Roswell incident,
Right.
and some 3, 4, 500 witnesses, some peripheral certainly, but we know that happened. It's not a mogul balloon.
Yeah.
So until they can admit to Roswell, until they can admit to Malmstrom, until they can admit to the Capitol flyover in 1952,
Hmm.
which, by the way, I just found out was right when the day the Earth stood still was released.
Oh, interesting.
Or like, I don't know if you've heard of this one, the Edwards Air Force Base landing in
Yes.
1954 with Eisenhower.
Hmm.
That was filmed. The reporting on that is excellent. Most
Right.
researchers who look into that are impressed. I thought, okay, rumor, maybe, I don't know. No, I'm convinced it happened. Let's see
That's
that
crazy.
footage.
Yeah.
Or the one, there's so many, the gun camera footage for all these jets, because we know jets have cameras on every side, top, bottom.
Yeah.
They film everything all around them. And we have whistleblowers who are saying, well, I've seen some of that footage, or I had that happen to me. They're not showing that. So
Right.
screw you. Go
Yeah.
away. I don't care what you have to say until you come clean. You're not being truthful and transparent. You're just not. So maybe we'll get
Yeah.
some future releases, and I can kind of understand a gradual release, because yeah, it's
Right.
gonna upset people. The skeptics are gonna have a real hard time. It's funny, I've interviewed people who are really skeptical or profoundly
Right.
religious or super atheist, just really hard line in their belief system. They have a real hard time. It's after an encounter. I was actually like that. I came into this field as a nutbag skeptic. I was sure it wasn't real. I was so sure. And it was devastating. It destroyed my belief system. I had to
Huh.
rebuild it. So, yeah, I get maybe doing this a little bit step by step, but unless there's an end game of showing us that Roswell craft, I don't want to hear it. And these
Right.
little blurry videos are uh, not, it's beyond frustrating, it's disingenuous,
Right.
because just from the whistleblower accounts, we know we've got multiple craft. We know they've reversed engineered technology. We know they've got, you've heard of Barry Goldwater, Senator Barry Goldwater, asking to see
Mm-hmm.
the quote blue room from
Right.
General Curtis LeMay, and he's like, "Shut up! Never bring that up again. How dare you? You don't have a need to know. Go away."
All right.
And these are the guys who are running our government, and you don't have the right to see it. They're not
Yeah.
running our government. It turns out
Apparently
it's
not.
not the legislative branch. It's not the president. It's not the judges. It's the intelligence agencies. It's the
Hmm.
military. That's who's running our country. It's the military-industrial complex. Those
And
folks, the
that,
cabal.
yeah, and that information, like you're saying, is definitely out there. They've recovered these crafts. They have to have video. We know that they've recovered biological samples. We've heard this from David
A lot of
Grush during his testimony, and actually at the couple like a week or two ago, there was that press conference in D.C. With David Grush and some members of Congress, and they were asking for the release of files related to like non-human biologics. And at that press conference, I was there. I live close to DC, so I went, and I was able actually to attend the press conference as press. I was able to get in as press.
Yeah, I saw that on your channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I asked Rush how many cases are involved that the government's aware of that involve non-human biologics. And his answer was several dozen, which is more than he's ever said before. And I don't know if we've ever heard that from anybody in the government so far. We're talking about several dozen cases. So if they have several dozen cases where the government is aware of non-human biologics that they've recovered, I mean, they know a lot more than they've had let on this entire time.
Yeah.
And can they come clean now with that after lying so hard for so long?
Yeah, kind of painted themselves into a corner. And I hate these
Yeah,
euphemisms. Not biologics. Just call them what they are. It's an ET
right.
bomb.
It's right. Yeah,
NHI, non-human intelligence. What do you do? A
right.
UAP. that one made me laugh because people are like, oh, you're a ufologist. I'm like, well, yeah. Now they're going to call me a UAPologist. I don't think so. I'm not buying that one.
Right.
We shouldn't even call them UFOs. We need to change the nomenclature on this. I think we should.
What do you suggest we call it?
Yeah, ET craft.
ET craft.
Extraterrestrials. They're people. They're people like us. They're not demonic. That's ridiculous. You might see the books behind me. I've got all the books on demonology and ghosts and even multiple personalities and psychology. And I mean, you name it. I looked it up. Angels, all of this stuff. It's not demons. It's not us from the future. It's not an intelligence that wears different masks. That one really gets to me. That's a popular theory among people. So they're like, well, there's the little people, the fairies. I'm like, yeah, there is. Those are real. It's funny because I always thought those were relegated to, 1500s or 1800s or maybe. No, there's modern day cases of so-called, dwarves, elves, fairies, gnomes, little people. It's in every culture.
Right.
And they're very much like Bigfoot in that I do think those are interdimensional and can slip inside and out of what we would call the third dimension to a higher dimension, which sounds, you start to get into the realms of quantum physics and stuff, because we know there's other dimensions. Mathematics has shown this pretty clearly. And frankly, our own research into mediumship and ghosts and near-death experiences and astral projection and all these things.
Yeah.
Which I got real into, the OBEs, actually. So there's absolutely these little people, but I don't think they're ETs. I think it's because if you look at these accounts, they follow a slightly different pattern that has real honest to God parallels. But like a demonic haunting is completely different. It's not demons flying around in spaceships warning people of nuclear proliferation and healing you. Use your brain. This is not the same thing.
Right. And I hate when people go with the demon theory. And I know the vice president believes that they're demons. And to me, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And because again, like demons in spaceships while they traveling around and doing this, but that messaging is scary because the way people will respond if they do eventually come and disclose like everything, maybe not everything, because I know there's some national security issues related to the tech and all that stuff. But let's just say they come forward at some point and they say, hey, we are being visited by this non-human intelligence. They're interacting with us. They've been interacting with us for X amount of years. If they were to come forward and just say there was a non-human intelligence visiting us, as opposed to coming forward and saying, yeah, we're being visited by these things and they're demons, which is kind of what the vice president is believing. The reaction you're going to get from people is going to be drastically different, especially when it comes to religious circles. So the messaging there, whatever narrative they choose to spin, I think is going to dramatically impact the way people receive it.
Yeah, which is why I'm so glad you're doing your podcast, and everyone out there who's in this field is playing a role to sort of get the truth out. Because 100%, I like that word spinning. That's what they're doing. They're spinning a web. They're pushing a narrative. It's fear-based. I honestly think that's what their plan is. I think that's what we're going to see with disclosure is, okay, it is real. Okay, it does represent a security threat. They are demonic. They're coming to kill you, and we're going to have that damn false flag where this could be bad news for us because the government folks, and again, I use that term loosely, government, the cabal, secret government, that's the word I'll use.
Secret government, yeah.
We'll be flying this reverse engineered craft around and using holographic technology and lasers and all kinds of stuff to do terrible things and blame it on ETs. A false flag invasion. I think that there's a lot of buzz about this, and I'm very concerned about it because no, it's not ETs doing it. They've been around forever. Let's not forget that. They've been around for a very, very long, since we've recorded history, they've been around.
Yeah.
So that, no, it's Yeah,
If they
I
wanted to
don't
wipe
trust
us
those
out,
folks.
right? If
No,
they had any negative intentions, they could have done away with us a long time ago.
yeah,
Uh, even now, our technology doesn't compare to what they have, but now we have somewhat of an ability to fight back. Like they could have wiped us out before we could have even done anything about it
yeah.
and
Well,
attempted to defend
I don't think you
ourselves.
can even shoot these guys down because there's
Right.
talks of that. I'm like, no, no, no. They know you before you press the button.
Right.
This is not something that's 100 years in advance of us, or 1,000, or 10,000, or 100,000. It's far more than that. I'm hearing this from directly from contactees, or people who are taken on board. Their technology is psychically based. We've got. If you look
Right.
at this, is so fascinating to me from the whistleblower accounts who worked with the crash retrieval programs. Talk about these craft in our custody. There's some we can't even open. We can't open them, and some
Right.
we open them up, and there's nothing inside there. There's no propellants, there's no gas tank, there's nothing like this. It's because these craft are psychically driven. Essentially, it's a psychic technology that
Right.
is very much interdimensional and so far in advance of what we think that it's like natives looking at a not even a cell phone, but
Right.
if you know what I mean. Like, it's just
Exactly.
so far advanced that we don't have a chance of reverse engineering the vast majority of this stuff.
No,
So
not at
I don't
all.
trust. I'm sorry to be like a downer about this, but I don't trust the government folks
Yeah.
with this subject. You've lied for too long, and I don't trust your motives. And the only way I think we'll ever get full truth and transparency is if it's to their benefit, which I don't see how it ever will be, or if there's a complete collapse of government, which could happen. Governments collapse.
Sure.
They don't last forever. They start to break at the seams. They become top heavy with greed and corruption. We see it over and over again throughout human history. We're seeing it right now. We've seen several governments just boom, crash. So, God bless the United States. We're still going strong, kind of.
Right.
We're doing pretty good, I think,
Yeah.
all in all.
So far, so far.
But I'm worried about it. I'm truly worried because the ETs aren't impressed. And I'm not speculating here. The contactees are getting the same message over and over again. The ETs keep pounding everybody with this same message. You are being destroyed by yourselves. The nuclear technology is more dangerous than you realize. You need to stop that. The greed, the corruption, the pollution, the destruction of the environment, the war, the aggression. They said we're on a pathway to self-extinction. And this is why they're pulling people on board. This is to preserve the genetics, because we're facing an existential crisis. So many contactees get that message of worldwide events that are basically causing a mass extinction and people getting scooped up and rescued. Sounds like science fiction. I know that if you start to really look into the science of this, we're facing some heavy duty events like a coronal mass ejection, a solar, what do you call it, a mini nova, or a polar tilt. Because if you look at Ben Davidson, he's kind of the go-to guy for some what they call space weather observers, where the planets in our solar system are flipping their magnetic field. Boom, 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 boom. It's going to happen to us. They've got the science on this. It's happening fast. So we're facing some real upheavals in a number of areas, environmentally speaking, that could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
So
that's scary.
What's interesting is contactees have gotten this message. They're moving off grid. They've gotten that message. They are preppers, as we call them, which is another way to sort of gaslight people. Like, oh, you're a prepper. It's like, no, I'm doing something that's reasonable. It's not phobic. It's, something we should all be prepared to have enough food to last 2-3 years. Because, that's how we used to live.
That's true.
have to go to grocery stores every day to live.
Right.
Food wasn't poisonous back then. Now everything's GMO'd and it's got all these horrible ingredients in it. Just found out a major spice company, one of the biggest, is on trial for putting heavy metals in their spice. Remember that happened to chocolate? A couple of, you can look all these. I don't want to name the companies, but who makes chocolate? We all know. But they got in trouble for putting heavy metal in their chocolate. I'm not sure it's intentional or not, but come on, we're eating this stuff.
Yeah.
I ended up throwing away a bunch of food because I found out it's labeled GMO. At least here in, I live in Georgia. In California, I was living there. They tried to pass a law to label food as GMO or not. The GMO folks spent $1 billion. I don't know what it was, but it was millions. Saying, oh, it's going to cost too much to label this as GMO. And the measure did not pass. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
God, are you voters that dumb? What's wrong with having something labeled as genetically modified to the point where animals won't even eat it? They won't eat the crops. There's a red flag there.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I'm sorry, that's a bit off topic, but it's not in a weird way because these folks are behind the cover up. It's these folks.
Right. And then how can you trust them?
Yeah, they're like, oh, UFOs, it doesn't affect me. I've never seen one. I don't really care. I'm like, well, I got news for you. You'd probably be flying around in a free energy car and you wouldn't have any electric bill. And all these diseases would be cured because they have the healing technology.
Right.
ETs are all about healing. I wrote a book, 300 plus cases I profiled in my book. Almost every researcher has them. No one's talking about it. But Bud Hopkins, John Mack, David Jacobs, Edith Fiore, Artie Six Killer Clark, Jacques Vallée, Brad Steiger, Tim Beckley, Yvonne Smith, Barbara Lamb. I mean, I could go on. They all have these cases.
Right.
No one was talking about it. I really got a great little niche there writing that book because that was like the first study of it. I'm like, how did anyone overlook this? This is insane. This is so cool. It's because it was counter narrative to the, fear-based media.
Right.
So I still get pushed back on that. I'm like, oh, you're an alien apologist. I'm like, listen, I am not pushing a narrative. I am really not. I am putting out cases factually and objectively.
Right.
And I've never said this is puppies and rainbows. It's not all lollipops and cotton candy. It's tough for people.
Yeah.
But almost all the contactees I've interviewed, I'm going to say upwards of 95%, had a real hard time in the beginning, but ultimately like, you know what? I think I did choose this. I wouldn't trade this for anything. They healed me. I've had a psychic awakening. You wouldn't believe these abilities I've had, or spiritual awakening rather. So it's absolutely given them a whole new outlook on not only themselves, but the universe. And they're like, this is amazing. A mixed bag in the beginning, but ultimately I see this pattern. It takes a while for some people. Right. Some never get there. Because one guy I interviewed, a Marine, I think it was my lab. He said it. This is another horrible thing. People are having these horrible experiences. It's not ET. He worked at Camp Pendleton, and those folks at that, I'll name that because I've had enough folks come out of there and they were not okay after serving there. They were brainwashed. My lab, big time. I was just talking to a guy a couple of days ago, and I'm like, do you live near a military base? He's like, well, actually, yeah, they used to test in our backyard. I'm like, oh God. Because he brought it up. He's like, I'm not sure if this was a my lab or not. His wasn't a terribly negative experience, but it wasn't terribly great either.
Right.
So that's going on. And it's hard to unpack. But yeah, that guy, such a great guy. He had wonderful contacts, and then it turned and he got my lab, and he thinks they're demonic. He's like, they killed my dog. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, I think that was the government, because I can't gaslight these witnesses. It's their experience. Right. This is my assessment, and that's not my job. I'm certainly willing to tell my opinion of things, but I can't tell witnesses like this was good for you when they're like, crying and out of their minds and hate it. Absolutely cannot stand their experiences. Well, here's a good example. This guy in England hated his experiences. He's fully conscious with them. He just doesn't like these greys coming in and scooping him up and his wife, and they put him in a tank of water where he had to breathe the water, and his wife was there, and she spent, some pretty difficult experiences. But also brought him on board, and they asked him, what do you want to do with your life? And counseled him. He started having major out-of-body experiences and precognition. And I'm like,
Wow.
Do you think that's because of your experience? He's like, yeah. Do you think that they woke that up in you? He's like, yeah, I do. And they stopped coming, right? A lot of people I've talked to, they're not having experiences right now since 2022, thereabouts. Apparently, could be the ETs have left. I'm hearing some good reporting on this because of our magnetic fields. But at any rate, he said, I kind of miss them. I call him Gary. I'm like, dude, I won't use his name. He says, I hate these guys, but I kind of miss them. I'm like, I thought you said you hated them. He's like, yeah, I know, but now that it's not happening anymore, I'm kind of missing it. So he's kind of getting there.
Right.
I knew another guy. He met up with his wife through weird circumstances. It turns out they're both contactees. I see this occasionally, this kind of alien dating service. They bring people together. And he just got fed up. He says, this is enough. They came and he said, stop, don't ever come here again. I never want to see you again. I'm done with you. I'm like, fine. That was it. They never came again. Other people have tried that. Eventually they'll come back and they're like, are you ready yet? They're like, no. Or you, because it's a complicated subject. And again, super sensitive. You have to be very careful because my first goal is to help people. It's not to get their story. It's not to make a buck. There's no money in this field. I've got 30 books and I am worried about my finances, like all of us, because
right.
I'm not rich on this, not even close. So, I worked full time for most of my life. Recently, I got fired because of the whole plague thing that went on down in 2020. So,
right.
I lived in a 600-foot condo. And then finally, my dad passed. And I was able to get some inheritance and got a little 800-foot square house, tiny little thing, which was, you're never going to pay that thing off. So no, I'm not rich. So people who say, oh, you're doing this for the money. I'm like, well, think what you want.
Right.
But people are like, oh, people are telling these stories for attention. Like, well, not the kind of attention you're thinking, because they get laughed at. They get gaslit. They lose friends. They get divorced. People give them the side eye.
It's often very traumatic for people.
You're fighting upstream if you're in this field. So kudos to you and anyone in this field. Man, it's tough.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting because it's a thing where, like, even when I first started doing this, I felt like almost hesitant to tell people I know that I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like, there were a few people I told, but I held it back from a lot of people. Like, I didn't tell them that I had like this, starting this podcast. I had this like big UFO like Instagram page. I wasn't telling people about it because I just felt like, I don't know, there was like a level of like embarrassment almost because the subject was made to be so taboo, right? And it's only recently that I've been like, I don't care. I'm just going to tell everybody that I do this. Like, it doesn't matter. But
it took me about 3 years to do that. I'm like, screw it. I'm just telling everybody. The whole government has gaslit all humanity.
Yeah.
We're victims of the cover-up, and I'm done with it. So yeah, I tell anyone. So
yeah, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. Yeah, we'll wrap this up, Preston. I do want to thank you so much for taking your time today to talk with me. I absolutely loved our conversation. Do you want to take a minute to plug any of your books or any of your work?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Scott. 30 plus books, 32. I'll list a couple of my favorites would be Symmetry, a true UFO adventure about Dolly Safarin, onboard UFO encounters. I love that one. It's my bestseller. I wrote one about schoolyard UFO encounters. Oh, I could talk an hour on just that. UFOs over
Interesting
schoolyards.
stuff.
The Healing book, Healing Power of UFOs. I got a bunch of them. You can find them at my website. If you punch in my name, it'll take you there. But the actual address is prestondennett.weebly.com. And you can contact me through the website or read excerpts of my books. I mean, it's a rabbit hole. Lots of information there. You can get my books on Amazon. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a podcast I do each Monday evening called The Light Gate with Dolly Safarin, one of the people I wrote about. 8 to 10. We love doing that. This subject is so important. We really need to get the word out. So I really appreciate you having me on this podcast. People deserve to know the truth.
Exactly. And I appreciate you so much for taking the time. You've done so much fantastic work in this field. And I hope people go out and check out some more of your books and check out your podcast. Cause you're a wellspring of knowledge. So thank you, Preston.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.